Good evening. It is now 6 o'clock p.m. and I call to order the June 1st, 2021 Board of Trustees meeting. Do I hear a motion to enter executive session to consider employment recommendations for the 2021-2022 school year, a construction management at-risk contractual matter related to the new Lexington Middle School replacement, and to receive legal advice concerning a pending legal matter?
Madam Chair, I move that the board enter into executive session to consider employment recommendations for the 2021-2022 academic year, a construction management at-risk contractual matter related to the new Lexington Middle School replacement, and legal advice concerning a pending legal matter in the case of Alvin Berry versus Lexington County School District 1.
Thank you, Ms. Hittenson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. All in favor, please say aye.
Prior to that, as a point of discussion, I will, as a reminder, I will be recusing myself as of the December 18th, 2018 recusal for any matters regarding the new Lexington Middle School replacement facility.
Thank you, Dr. Guyton. So Dr. Guyton will not participate in that conversation during executive session. All right. All right, board, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. And we will now enter into executive session. Any audience members should clear the room, please. Thank you very much. All right, it is 7 p.m. Do I hear a motion to conclude executive session and begin general session?
Madam Chair, I move that the board conclude executive session and begin general session.
Thank you, Ms. Henson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. All right. I call to order the general session of the June 1st meeting. We are meeting tonight in compliance with CDC recommendations. The auditorium has been thoroughly cleaned and sanitized before the meeting and will be after the meeting as well. District staff will also sanitize the microphone before and after staff presentations or individuals speaking during citizens' participation. All board members, employees, or other individuals in attendance are encouraged to social distance and should wear a face covering at all times. There is limited seating to maintain social distancing. Once the seating is filled, attendees are asked to go to the staff development room, overflow room, where they can watch the meeting while observing social distancing guidelines. The public is encouraged to watch the meeting on our YouTube channel. After the meeting, the district will follow its previously established process by posting a video of the meeting to the district's YouTube channel, Lex One video site, and our own website. The district is in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act by notifying the media of the date, time, and place of the meeting. The district tapes the meeting for accuracy in preparing the minutes. I now yield the floor to Ms. Kathy Henson for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Madam Chair, fellow board members, staff, and guests, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Henson. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Madam Chair, I move that the board approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Guyton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. All right, moving on to 6.0, reports and action items from executive session. Do I hear a motion to approve 26 certified recommendations for the 2021-2022 school year?
Madam Chair, I move that the board approve 26 certified recommendations for the 2021-2022 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Is there any discussion? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve 10 administrative recommendations for the 2021-2022 school year?
Madam Chair, I move that the board approve 10 administrative recommendations for the 2021-2022 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Is there any discussion? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. All right. Do I hear a motion to approve a budget increase for the new Lexington Middle School replacement facility?
Madam Chair, I move that the board increase the budget for the new Lexington Middle School replacement facility by $5 million, from $53 million to $58 million for the off-site road improvements on Old Cherokee Road required by the South Carolina Department of Transportation and the Office of School Facilities at the South Carolina Department of Education. This will be funded through using the 2018 referendum bond premium funds.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. And I would like to mention that Dr. Kyle Guyton, in a recusal dated December 18th, 2018, recused himself from all votes and deliberations regarding the purchase of property for the relocation of Lexington Middle School. And so therefore, Dr. Guyton will not participate in this discussion or the vote. All right, is there any discussion, board? Mr. Salters, would you like to walk us through
Sure.
this?
Be glad to. Let's see. Oh, okay. So this budget adjustment is, again, for the Lexington Middle School relocation, now named Lakeside Middle School. And so just to reorient everyone, this is the property on Old Cherokee Road. The school site is under construction, and the road improvements will actually encompass about a mile of this road, and utility movement relocations Currently, there is a federal, I think it's Federal Highway Safety Project that's ongoing right now, where Catawba Trail is going to be lined up with a new curve in the road up here, and this intersection will be corrected, and that signal will be moved down, and so this road will kind of flow straight on through to Catawba. And so our portion of the road work will begin kind of in this area and end at the North Lake intersection down here at that big intersection. And so just to remind you, this is a general site layout. We have two entrances to the site. North Lake Drive would be up here on the northern portion of the screen. This is a service and bus loop that will come around the back of the facility. And then the parent drop-off, we have the long stacking loop that you're familiar with that will come in and then come back out toward Cherokee. And this intersection will actually be a signalized intersection at that location. So we'll be in that's part of this package. And this is a kind of a high-level view of the road improvements. Essentially what's going to happen is there's going to be a what's called a through lane installed. The road will be widened. So it's basically 3 lanes all the way through. And that middle lane will turn into a turn lane at various locations through the course of this road improvement zone. And so what that's going to allow is for much safer travel on Old Cherokee Road, because frequently now what happens is folks stop to turn into businesses along this roadway, causing backups, and there's some fairly frequent accidents that happen there along that road because of those stops. So this through lane will allow that traffic to move into those lanes and then let the other traffic continue on freely through. So original project budget was $53 million. The adjustments for this off-site road work is around $5 million. Total budget would be roughly $58 million. And that, as I mentioned, these budgets include contingency amounts as well as some allowance amounts, and any of those unused amounts will be returned to the district. And so we anticipate seeing some savings at the end of these projects. The additional budget that we're recommending would come from approximately $22.7 million in bond premium and interest earnings that we've received to date on our 2018 bond referendum sale. We've had several large premium amounts that were given to us as related to our outstanding credit rating when we did the bond sales, and these bond premiums, one of the uses of those is to return that into the projects and address additional budget needs for the projects listed on the referendum. So this fits that need nicely. Just wanted to give you kind of a point of information related to some of our upcoming capital expenditures. You know, with the construction market the way it is, I think it's good to set your eyes on the future. And so we do have 2 large projects left in the 2018 referendum, and those are the River Bluff Area Elementary School and the White Knoll Area Elementary School. We're still looking for property with the River Bluff School. The budget for that school is a little bit lower because it was originally supposed to start earlier in the program. And so, but again, we're still identifying property to build that facility. We do need to purchase that property. That's the next bullet there. And then we also have a device refresh that we'll be coming up on approximately 2024-25, student device refresh. I don't have an amount there listed at this point because, you know, we're a ways out from that. There are a number of factors that will influence the cost of that. One of those being the grade levels that we choose to refresh devices. It's currently, you know, we went down to, you know, K through 12. And so we'll make a decision leading up to that as to whether we keep the devices at those lower grade levels at that 1-to-1 density or scale that back. Additionally, we'll also consider the type of device that we refresh with. Right now, our high school students have a MacBook, and there may be some other options to look at that would save on cost. So additionally, that has come up for potential use of some of the ESSER 3 money that is now available, and that funding goes out to September of 24. So it's possible that we might be able to use some of that federal funding for the refresh. If you recall, we did use some of the early federal money to help expand our technology rollout and fill in some gaps to get to one-to-one this past year during the early stages of COVID pandemic. So additionally, we have upcoming our Gilbert and Pelion Early Childhood Centers. We're still working on the scopes of those and the budgets. Of course, we do have some money in the referendum to do some demo work at each of those facilities. That would be the old Gilbert Elementary School and the old Pelion Middle School locations. But the additional reworking of those to turn them into early childhood centers, we still working on those budgets. We have some HVAC projects that weren't originally funded in the 18 referendum. If you recall, the original referendum was $393 million. And we scaled that back considerably to the 365, and much of that was scaled back was the HVAC work, and that was incorporated kind of into some of our ongoing capital funding that we get each year to earmark that for that purpose. And so that's roughly $2 to $3 million a year. It could be higher on a given year, but that's typically what we've seen. That also has some potential for ESSER money, because obviously one of the components of that federal funding is the ability to address indoor air quality in your classrooms. We currently have about $7.6 million in our capital fund, and then we anticipate this fall we do a installment purchase revenue bond, IPRB, payment sale each fall to make our IPRB payments throughout the course of the year. And as part of that payment, each year we have an amount of money that comes in with that sale that we use for these ongoing capital needs. And so we anticipate that being around $6.5 million this fall. That would be another influx of money. And we had intended initially on our debt schedule when we rolled out the referendum to increase the overall debt service to 99 mills to pay for the $365 million borrow that we've done. And due to the bond premium and the market and other conditions, the bond market has been really favorable, obviously. We have been able to maintain our millage value at 90 mills, which was where it was at the beginning of the referendum. So we haven't increased our millage at all on the debt service side, and are still, targeting to be able to make payments and so forth. So that's been a really favorable aspect of our capital funding at this point. So, and we're not recommending, again, for 2021, we're not recommending a millage increase as well. So 3 years into the program, not having raised mills is, and done a large amount of the work in the program is really a good thing to be able to talk about. So those are kind of the things that we have, kind of a snapshot of the the overall budget need, and then maybe a little more detail related to the capital expenditures, just so you have a perspective on the use of that bond premium.
I'd have some comments and some questions for the board. I know it wasn't mentioned there, of that $58 million, $11 million is for on-site work to get the school ready. Prior to last week, did anyone up here know that the cost of site work at that site was $11 million? No? Okay. Has anyone on this board reviewed any contracts for referendum projects that detail a start date, completion date, cost of site work, or road improvements? No? Okay. Well, I was gonna say, we wouldn't be here discussing this $5 million road improvement or ignoring the fact that this is only one of several projects that are behind schedule if the board actually did their job and reviewed bids, contracts, change orders, and other things for bond referendum projects. I've taken the time to meet with Mr. Salters, and he's been gracious in providing me documents and explanations. In return, I've sent email after email to this board, telling them how we need to be more involved in this bond referendum. I've explained how other boards are provided detailed written reports each month that give a breakdown of building cost, site work cost, and change order information. In addition, some boards even require approval of change orders. Not only is this board not made aware of change orders, we don't even know the amount of the change orders. There were over $640,000 in approved change orders at Centerville, one of which included changing the color of the mortar at a cost of $16,000. And there is a $25,000 custom mural budgeted for Lakeside Middle School. This school was supposed to open in 3 months. Instead, we're voting on a year's worth of road improvements that are over budget. I'm just wondering why everyone is content with a slideshow that shows a few pictures each month and a one-page budget report when the voters have trusted us with $365 million in projects.
Ms. Garris, I was just going to ask you, just so we're comparing apples and apples, the districts that you refer to that require approval of change orders and detailed reports, have they also received substantial bond premium refunds like we have? And do they have the excellent credit rating that we have? And have most of their projects come in under budget? And I just want to make sure we have context so that when we're comparing ourselves to the practices of other districts, that we know exactly what we're looking at.
I'll be glad to find that out for you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any questions for Mr. Salters?
Is the timeline a year for the road improvements?
We anticipate opening the school in August of, 22. So we've given the contractor basically until June of next year because we have to have everything approved by OSF and the State Department of Education.
Okay.
We're in a situation here where the building is going to be completed probably in the February to March timeframe, and then we'll finish up punch lists and things like that. And so we could put a more urgent timeline on the road, but it would cost you more dollars to do that. It's a very complicated project, and to put a 6-month timeframe on it would just increase the cost and more than likely scare away bidders.
Mr. Salters, would you go back to the slide that shows the stretch of Old Cherokee?
That one? Or
Yeah.
you want to see
The one that kind of shows the starting and end point. Yeah. I mean, is it customary for school districts to have to pay for like a mile of road? I mean, how much of the road front is actually the school?
I'd have to get you a measurement, but it's, under 2,000 feet, as I recall, across this span right here. Is it customary? No. Has it happened? Yes. I mean, this district had to put in Northside Boulevard, which is approximately a mile, when we opened Medellin Elementary and Middle, as a secondary outlet to Jenny Lane. And there are other districts across the state that are in high density, high growth areas that are experiencing similar situations, because if you can just look at this particular area right here and the density of the development, it's very hard to find land in those areas. And so when you do, you have to do some work to mitigate traffic issues.
And so you said that that we'll be adding like a third, like the center optional turn lane. And so that's going to benefit not only our school and the people that flow through there every day, but also all of the subdivisions and the businesses and other groups that are on that stretch of road. Is that correct?
Yeah, it would be a 24/7, 365 road for sure.
Okay, thank you.
But what would have really benefited them is if we didn't put the school on that road to begin with, and if we found another piece of land. I even have emails that I sent in FOIA requests to the State Department of Education, and there's internal communication inside the State Department of the Department of Transportation where there are concerns inside the Department of Transportation with the school site.
Mr. Salters, did you receive any concerns from the
We
DOT?
worked with the SCDOT and mitigated any concerns they had. And again, Ms. Garris, we looked at every piece of land in this area and reviewed them with the board, and basically we had this as an option. We have to build schools where the children are. and you were involved in that process. So, I would just tell you that it would be great to not have to have put a school on that road, but the school where it is now has 3 or 4 times the traffic that road does. And so, it's what we had available to choose from.
Not to be repetitive, Mr. Salters, but tell us again why we have these contingency funds. How'd we come about those? Was it,
Yes,
just
Mr.
luck
Oswald,
or-
it's a result of two things, really. It's a favorable bond market that we entered into with our referendum sales, good planning on the part of the board and the financial advisors, and also our outstanding credit rating. That's obviously done each year, and each time we do a bond sale independently by Moody's and Standard & Poor's. I'm sure you've heard of those institutions. They're nationally recognized for credit analysis.
And what was the total that we received in premium bond?
To date, we've got $22.7 million.
Okay.
All right, board, are there any other questions for Mr. Salters? All right, Dr. Powers, would you mind rereading the motion that's on the table for us?
So the motion read, I move that the board increase the budget for the new Lexington Middle School replacement facility by $5 million, from $53 million to $58 million for the off-site road improvements on Old Cherokee Road required by the South Carolina Department of Transportation and the Office of School Facilities at the South Carolina Department of Education. This will be funded using 2018 referendum bond premium funds.
Thank you. All right, board, we have the motion on the table. All in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much. Would like to mention to you that during executive session, the board did receive legal advice concerning a pending claim in the case of Alvin Berry versus Lexington County School District 1. This was for information only and no action is required. All right, we are moving on to item 7.0, which is special recognition. I'll give Dr. Little a chance to walk down while I wipe the fog off of my reading glasses. I know. It's been like 15 months since you've been down front. We're getting back to normal. That's so exciting. All right. Tonight, we would now like to take a point of privilege to recognize some of the district's dedicated educators and administrators who plan to retire at the end of this month. We'll start with Dr. Benjamin Reichard, principal of Gilbert Middle School. Come on down. Dr. Reichard retires after 32 years in public education, with the last 15 years spent here in Lexington District 1 as GMS principal. Dr. Reichard selflessly served the students, staff, and Gilbert community. Congratulations. Next, we'd like to recognize Elementary Schools Director Van Bowers. Mr. Bowers retires after 33 years in public education, with 27 years of service to Lexington District 1. He served as an assistant principal at Red Bank Elementary and Oak Grove Elementary before being promoted to principal of Oak Grove Elementary in 2003. In 2007, he opened New Providence Elementary as principal. During his tenure at Oak Grove and New Providence, both schools received Palmetto Gold and Silver Awards for outstanding academic achievement. He was promoted to Elementary Schools Director in 2015. Congratulations. This is like the All-Star game. All right, now we would like to honor 3 of our senior leadership team members, starting with Chief Communications Officer Mary Beth Hill. Ms. Hill retires after more than 44 years of marketing, public relations, and corporate communications experience in both the private and public sectors. She joined the district in 1996, becoming a voice of Lexington District 1. She even has a few memes on social media. Ms. Hill's compassion, expertise, and leadership guided the district and our schools through many exciting and challenging times. She received state, regional, and national awards and honors, including being named the district's 2016 Joseph M. Bedenbaugh Administrator of the Year. Congratulations and thank you, Mary Beth. Chief Academic Officer Dr. Gloria Talley retires after 46 years of service in public education, the last 11 years here in Lexington District 1, guiding our instructional services, curriculum, and technology services. During her service, this district created a high-performance learning culture with high expectations. Dr. Talley has served on various national, state, and local committees and was recognized with numerous awards for service. I understand this will be Dr. Talley's last board meeting with us, as she will be traveling to receive another special award on June 22nd. Thank you and congratulations, Dr. Talley. Last, Chief Human Resources Officer Mike Stacy retires after 42 years of service in public education. Mr. Stacy joined Lexington District 1 in 1999 as the first principal of White Knoll High School. In 2006, he transferred to Central Services, where he served as Director of Middle School Education, Media Services, 504 Services, Leadership Development and Quality, and Alternative Education. He moved to Human Resources in 2014 as Director and became the Chief Human Resources Officer in 2017. His work resulted in a more collaborative culture in our Human Resources Division. His vision and his division's work help us attract and secure quality candidates for all positions. Congratulations and thank you, Mr. Stacy. We have one more presentation this evening. I'm going to turn it over to Julie Washburn, who is the Executive Director of the Lexington District 1 Educational Foundation.
Thanks for having us here this evening. I'm excited to be here on behalf of the Lexington 1 Educational Foundation to present the 16th Annual Joseph M. Bedenbaugh Administrator of the Year Award. This was established in 2005 by the Educational Foundation, and it recognizes an effective, deserving administrator within the district while also honoring an esteemed administrator from the original Lexington District 1 staff of 1952, the late Mr. Joseph M. Bedenbaugh. Mr. Bedenbaugh worked in the district for 36 years, serving as a 7th grade math teacher, a principal, and assistant superintendent for personnel and federal programs. He was also a World War II veteran who served in the U.S. Air Force. Although he retired in 1983, he remained very active in the school district for many years. And we honor him each year when we present this award on behalf of the Lexington 1 Educational Foundation. Sadly, he passed away in 2019, and his son, Mackie, was unable to join us this evening, but he did ask me to wish congratulations to the award winner. The nomination packet for this year's winner was very impressive and included personal statements and photos of the winner in action doing an outstanding job being an administrator. The lead nominator shared the following: administrators are leaders committed to their mission in education, have a strategic vision, are able to balance work and emotions, are great listeners and well-organized and have a passion for their profession. However, to encounter an administrator that has the gift of all these traits is truly rare. A few other thoughts shared by some of the individuals who commented in the packet were, this individual genuinely cares for the school family, sincerely loves students and learning, has the ability to take a chaotic situation and provide a calming solution with the urgency that it may require, is dedicated and works long hours, but is also very approachable, demonstrates patience and kindness, and is quick to forgive when a student has a bad day, balances a fun personal side with a serious side at work, finds a way to meet the emotional and physical needs of the students, such as when this individual organized a food drive and made personal deliveries to students' homes during the pandemic to support the school families. As a result of the many heartfelt words shared with us through the nomination packet, we actually created a plaque that I'd like to read to you now in honor of this individual. Our 2021 Joseph M. Beedmo Administrator of the Year Award is presented to this individual in recognition of outstanding leadership and a commitment to education as a teacher, assistant principal, and principal in Lexington County School District 1. The individual's passion and dedication to proudly encourage and celebrate personal and professional growth in students, teachers, and staff, for a genuine love of the students and school family, and the caring and intentional connections with them, for the ability to lead and motivate others with professionalism, a cheerful heart, outstanding vision, and kindness, for this person's amazing skills as a compassionate listener, a strong and positive communicator, and a leader inside and outside of the school and district. For all these reasons, this person exemplifies and demonstrates through action and example an outstanding commitment to excellence in education. Accordingly, on behalf of the Lexington One Educational Foundation, I'm very pleased to present our 2021 Joseph M. Beedenbaugh Administrator of the Year Award to Mrs. Debbie Poole, Principal of Gilliam Elementary.
You have to be, it's a board chair. It's part of being board chair.
We were excited to have her husband Larry, who's a Pillion Middle School teacher, as well as a Pillion High assistant football coach and head softball coach, and their daughter Beth. Sarah. Beth was not able to join us; she lives too far away, but hopefully she's watching the stream. People ask me, when are you going to retire? I said, never, because I really love what I do. Started out at Oak Grove Elementary, love that. Thankful to Van Bowers, who brought me to New Providence Elementary, and Dr. Little, who asked me to go to Pillion Elementary. So it has been a joy, and I have loved every minute. So thank you. Queued up and ready. Do we have a video ready? Josh? We'll have to share that with you later. Oh, is the Pillion High? Oh, is it ready? Okay, good.
Hey, my name is Rebecca Spell. I'm the nurse at Pillion Elementary School, and I just wanted to congratulate Ms. Debbie Poole on winning the Joseph Beedenbaugh Administrator of the Year Award. She truly deserves this award She handles the ever-changing education field with such dignity and grace, and we are so lucky to have her with us at Pelham Elementary School. Congratulations.
3.
We couldn't ask for a more compassionate, professional leader for our school and for our community, and we are super, super excited and proud for you.
Congratulations, Miss Poole. Thank you so much for all you do for us.
Congratulations, Miss Poole.
Congratulations.
We're so excited for you.
You deserve this. Best principal ever. 3.
Okay, start.
Congratulations, Miss Poole.
Hey, we're the third grade team here at Pelham Elementary, and we would just like to say congratulations to Miss Poole.
She is passionate, outstanding, optimistic, loving, and extraordinary.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Miss Poole.
Hi, we're the 5th grade team from Pelham Elementary, and we just want to say congratulations to Miss Poole. You are so deserving of this award. We love working at Pelham. We love working with you. And yeah, you are great. Please don't change. Bye.
Congratulations, Miss Poole. You are a rock star.
3.
Congratulations, Miss Poole. Love RTI.
Hey, Miss Poole, this is your SPED team, and we just wanted to congratulate you on winning the Administrator of the Year award. We are so blessed to work under your leadership, and we hope to work with you for many more years. Thank you for your support of all students. We love you, Miss Poole.
Congratulations, Miss Poole. Thank you for all that you do. We're blessed to have you here at Pelham Elementary.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Debbie. We're so proud of you.
This is Miss Pratt's 4K class, and we have a message. Congratulations, Miss Poole. We love you, Miss Poole.
Wow, you exemplify what this award represents. You show the staff of PES what true leadership looks like on a daily basis. We are so proud of you at PES. Congratulations on winning this award.
Congratulations, Miss Poole. We love you.
Hey, Miss Poole. You got a positive office referral. Woo-hoo, way to go. Miss Poole, the staff said that you always use your life skills and lifelong guidelines and power skills every single day to make PS a better place. You're always a team player, you're a great leader, and you're an exceptional person. The school and community of Pelham is lucky to have your leadership. We're so proud of you.
Great job, Ms. Poole. As a result of all your hard work and dedication, you also get to pick a prize out of our prize box. And we have got some really good ones, like coins for our book vending machine. We've got puzzles to keep your mind active. And we have lots of other things that are great in here for you to choose from. And also, don't forget, when you get home, you get to take that home and put it up on your refrigerator. So great job, Ms. Poole.
Way to show that Panther pride.
Congratulations, Principal Poole. They told me not to talk about the special treats. You know, the ones you keep for me in your desk. So that'll be our little secret. Here at PES, everyone thinks you are just fabulous. And I know I speak for everyone when I say, we rough you.
Congratulations, Miss Poole.
How do the kids not tell it? How do they, I mean, it seems like all
A
those
whole
kids.
school of elementary kids, and they didn't tell the secret.
Yeah, I guess they don't know what it is. They're just
I
saying
guess.
congratulations. I don't know what. That's a pretty darn good secret. Keep it that long.
All right, we are going to continue on to item 8.0, which is citizens' participation. Lexington County School District 1's Board of Trustees solicits the advice and counsel of its citizens. To encourage this participation, the board provides a citizens' participation period during board meetings. In order to speak, you must be the parent or legal guardian of a student currently attending a Lexington District 1 school, a taxpayer residing in the Lexington District 1 attendance area, an employee of the district, or a student currently attending a Lexington District 1 school. You may comment on agenda items, school operations, policies, programs, or other matters. You may not speak about specific individuals, whether students or staff. We want to remind you that this meeting is being live streamed and that the recording of this meeting will be a part of the public record in perpetuity. We want to give everyone who came tonight an opportunity to speak, and in order to do that, I will call on each speaker by name and ask you to approach the lectern at the back of the room. The board will not reply to your remarks nor take any action during the board meeting in response to your comments or questions. You may address the board for up to 3 minutes. Please do not clap or make any comments either while an individual speaks or after he or she finishes. As you came in tonight, you received a card to fill out if you indicated you wanted to speak. The card asks for your name, address, and other information. However, I will only read out your name, the town you reside in, and the name of the schools your children attend when it is your turn to speak. Anyone who is uncomfortable addressing the board in person may reach out to the board by email, telephone, or mail, and our contact information is available on the Lexington One website. We welcome all messages. Before we begin, I just want to take a personal moment. Mr. John Mew, who spoke at our meeting on May 18th, I misconstrued some of the comments that he was making, and I cut him off prematurely and did not allow him to finish one of his statements. And he and I have communicated by email, and I apologize to him via email, but I also wanted to apologize publicly to him. He did get to finish his time, but he did not get to finish the statement that he was making because I misunderstood what he was saying. And so I wanted to offer a sincere apology to him at this time. And at this time, we will continue with community participation. Everybody, complete a card that wanted to complete a card and wants to speak to us? All right, we will get started. First up, we have Mr. James Reynolds. Mr. Reynolds is a resident of Lexington, and he has 3 children in our Lula program.
I'd like to start my time by just saying a couple things to let everybody be aware of some things I've become aware of lately. The first is after having met with Superintendent and Board Chair, would thank you for taking the time to do that. I understand that committees and authoritative bodies like the DHEC and whatnot basically make the decisions and they give recommendations they go along with by and large. Secondly, I'd like to, anybody who has a child, anybody parent that's got a child in the health classes, I strongly urge you to ask your children what it is they've learned about certain things, such as the drug education, is what it really should be called. My wife showed me some of the things through the Brain Pop and teenagehealth.org that were quite detailed, and it relieved me that we opted my 12-year-old out of the sex ed and relationships part of it, because as detailed as the drug education was, I can only imagine how graphic that would have been. So I just wanted to bring that up. Secondly, I know the board can't respond and whatnot, but I was at the May 4th meeting, at which some statements were made that the extra police presence and things at the May 18th meeting was because some actions taken on the 4th by some citizens. I was at that meeting from before the meeting started till it ended, and the only things that happened was somebody knocked on the door and a few people got loud, which we were told we were allowed to do. So I'd just like to try and figure out what exactly prompted the 3 times the police presence at the May 18th meeting and the blocking off of the parking lot in the building at the taxpayer's expense. Secondly, I'd like to just pose a question to some of the board members. Did you know when you were running for office that you were representing the families of District 1, of Lexington District 1? I mean, it seems like a silly question to ask, but there are 7 board members, and I've emailed each one of you individually. I've heard from 3. I just wanted to remind you that as an elected official, the people voted for you, and if we can't get in contact with you, that only leaves this kind of a recourse for us to come to the board meetings. I just wanted to reach out to each individual to see where you guys were coming from. Like I said, I have gotten in contact with 3 of you, and I appreciate that. However, I just wanted to make sure that my perceptions and opinions of the board were accurate. Like I said, that leaves 4 of you that didn't get back to me, couldn't respond to an email, and I think you know who you are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reynolds. All right, next we have Mr. John Mew. He lives in Lexington.
Ms. Green, thank you for your apology, and I appreciate the openness about it. This is a great example of how the school board should follow its own policy and procedures without prejudice. In fact, that's exactly what I want to speak to you about tonight. At the last meeting, the board spent time in open dialogue about adding to the agenda, and honestly, that was a breath of fresh air. I truly appreciate the experience, seeing our elected officials discuss matters in open and vote in a way that we, the people, could see you. The unfortunate part was the citizen did appear to meet the standard laid out in the school board policy and procedures to be added to the agenda. However, the board discussed the matter for more than the 10 minutes that the citizens sought for their time to be added to the agenda. During the discussion, a board member even affirmed that the policies and procedures are in conflict and do not reflect the current situations. In light of that, the board voted to turn down a citizen who appeared to meet the guidelines from being added to the agenda. The person who writes the contract has the greater duty to ensure everything is spelled out in clarity. If not, then the gray area is typically sided with the person who signed the contract versus the one who wrote it. We, the people, are those who signed the contract with the Lexington 1 School Board. We, the people, are owed more transparency in the school district. It would appear that the current board chooses to apply policy and procedures when it best suits the board versus the citizens. Additionally, does the board intend to address the conflicts within the district's policies and procedures? Or shall we continue to chase our tails with the games that are being played? I hope that this board will address these conflicts within the policy and procedures to ensure its own compliance in the future. The direction of this school board needs to change, either at the ballot box or in the way that the board communicates and handles community involvement. Our change to make the school district better begins with we, the people. Our future is much brighter with inclusive involvement of parents, students, and all community members. I hope that this school board will listen to those who are speaking out on issues that have real impacts on our children and do something. We, the people, will not just go away. We are committed to real change and real accountability from this school board and superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mew, and your very cute assistant. Next, we have Miss Debbie Hine. She lives in Lexington and has students that attend Lexington High School.
Good evening. First, congratulations to all the administrators for their awards tonight. That's wonderful. Good for you. It's lovely to see things like that. It's lovely to see people coming into this room. It's lovely that we let that restriction of the number of people in here slide for that. I really appreciate that. I thought Ms. Garris's questions here directed at the board about the middle school were amazing. That's food for thought and something to go back and rewind, starting at 7:16 and rewatch. That's quite fascinating. I'm curious if the district, if the contractors have any kind of penalties in their contracts for not being on time and for going over and things like that. I mean, that's a big ball to drop. I would really just like to address that when we started. Oh, and to Mr. Reynolds' comment about the health classes. Funny of all things, just this last few days, I've been trying to FOIA that because nobody will let me know what's taught at the 9th grade class about that. And I'd love access to that. If anybody has access to that or could help me with that, that'd be great. My own kids didn't take it. They took health through the virtual school. Anyway, one thing I really wanted to address tonight, my only thoughts were that I'm sure you're aware of the COVID tracker that the district has, and on May 11th at 5 p.m., that's when Governor McMaster signed the executive order making masks optional in schools, and then the state immediately rescinded their order, so there is no masking policy in the district. And I still cannot get an answer about graduation from Mr. Little, if that is required at graduation, which it certainly should not be. That would be illegal to require that. Or if people will be given the option, and if it will be made known that they have an option on that. Thank you, Mr. Little. On the following day, on May 12th, the district COVID tracker showed 14 positive student cases. Sorry, that was the recent one. On May 12th, the day after the executive order, there were 28 positive student cases with 389 students excluded, 1 staff case with 15 staff excluded. The last, just right before this board meeting, I checked, and it was last updated May 28th, and there are 14 positive cases directly cut in half for our students and 0 staff cases. 265 other students are excluded and 7 other staff. So I just want to point out that please don't threaten our students that you'll take their activities or their events away, because the data doesn't support that. And that's just childish and petty and silly. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I hope you all continue to have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Ms. Heim. I'm going to ask Dr. Talley if you could assist Ms. Heim with getting the health curriculum that's offered in the high schools.
Sure, I'll be happy to.
Thank you. We are moving on now to item 9.0, which is action items. 9.1, during the delegate assembly in December 2021, the South Carolina School Boards Association will be taking considerations for amendments to its constitution and bylaws. You have received proposed revisions as suggested by Ms. Garris. I will yield the floor to Ms. Garris to review her recommended revisions and then offer a motion and we will vote.
Okay. Through email earlier, I sent everyone the proposed changes that I wish to make to the rules of procedure and the Constitution and bylaws. I won't go through each of those since you each have a copy, but does anyone have any questions?
Do you want to put a motion on the table and then we'll discuss the actual content of the...
So I make a motion that the board accept the proposed revisions to the South Carolina School Boards Association Constitution and bylaws and rules of procedure as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Garris. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Guyton. All right. All right, you want to just open the floor for discussion, Ms. Garris?
Yes.
All right.
So does anyone have any discussion?
I actually have a couple items of discussion. And I am working with several different pieces of paper here.
You want to talk through the reasons for the change, Jada? What are you trying to change?
Yeah, so underneath each one, there's the rationale. So the proposed changes to the rules of procedure.
Ms. Garris, hang on just a second. Ms. Halliday has copies of what you sent. It's so much easier to work with paper up here than it is the screens. Yes, that will help us. I'm sorry. All right, Ms. Garris, go ahead. I'm sorry for the interruption.
So I sent the links by email, the Delegate Assembly Handbook and the Constitution and bylaws, but the proposed changes to the rules of procedure, so that would be Rule 9, and that can be found on page 13 of the 2020 Delegate Assembly Handbook. And I would ask that Rule 9 be amended to include the last sentence that was struck during the 2020 Delegate Assembly. And that sentence is, Proposed resolutions or constitutional changes submitted under these circumstances will only be allowed when written verification is provided that the action is requested by a majority vote of the submitting board. Now, the rationale for this is during the December 2020 Delegate Assembly, a board member of the Lancaster County School District made a motion, and it passed, to strike that last sentence in Rule 9 that no longer requires written verification, because he based this on the assumption that the delegates here have been voted on by their board and are representing their board. However, in Lexington 1, individual board members are certified as delegates without the knowledge of the member board, thus allowing that member that was delegated last year to make changes to the bylaws, constitution, and resolutions without all the board members' knowledge or approval. So he made the wrong assumption in assuming that all boards vote on their delegates that they send to the assembly.
Well, and actually, the statement that was stricken in those rules, and the rules just apply to that one meeting, because they proposed new rules at each of the assemblies, but that sentence that was stricken was actually not applying to all proposed resolutions, but just to any that a member might stand up and make ad hoc at the delegate assembly. And the reason he struck that is because, yes, the delegates are there on behalf of their member boards, but all of the proposed resolutions are supposed to flow through boards. And so he was just saying that statement was redundant, because the delegates are there representing their boards, not themselves. And so that actually is not a significant change to the rules, because it's a very limited situation where at the delegate assembly, if for some reason a board member decides to stand up and propose a resolution, they can't do that because they can't act on behalf of themselves at the delegate assembly. And that's why that statement was in that section, because that's what that whole section is about.
Okay. But he actually made that change, and I put in quotes here. He assumed the delegates here have been voted on by their board and are representing their board, but that was not true. So I'm not real sure why you didn't speak up at that time and say that we may not want to change this because I wasn't voted on by my board. There may be other boards here, delegates here that haven't been voted on by their board either.
But there's no requirement that boards vote for their delegates. They just have to be certified, which is a form. And I think you did some research and contacted Mr. Price at the School Boards Association, and that is left up to individual boards. And this kind of goes to one of the other points that you make here. As you know, because you served as a delegate in 2018 at the Delegate Assembly, we certify our delegates by virtue of who is planning to attend. And so each year, the delegates have to be certified, I believe, by like November 20th, November 19th, after which is after the date that you're registered for the conference. And so we have 9 votes as Lexington 1. We would never have more than 7 delegates there. And so everybody that attends on behalf of our board is certified as one of our delegates. And so I'm not sure that the point you're making is that we need to vote on everybody, because, I mean, if you want you served as a delegate the year that you went, you haven't gone since, and so you haven't been a delegate. Likewise with other board members that go. And so I'm not sure if you choose not to attend the conference, should we vote for you to be a delegate?
Well, I wasn't allowed to go last year, so there's only 1 year that I didn't go. So that was in 2019.
And that's because the School Board Association specified that one person attend. And Ms. Smith, who was chair at the time, designated me and designated Dr. Powers as alternates because she had to submit the form in September last year. And so that's what she did.
Right, and no one else knew that at the time. That's the whole point of the changes to the rules, is that this man stood up and made a change to the rules of procedure that y'all were operating under that day, and he said, I want to strike this last sentence here because the delegates here have been voted on by their board and are representing their board, but that was not true.
But that's just his statement from he represents
Right.
Lancaster. That was not, he was just making a statement of presumption about, I don't know that any other boards vote on their delegates.
Yes, they do.
Not
Yeah,
all of them
they
do.
Not all of them may not, but I can tell you this, they're very well aware of who's going
But
to the
I don't think we
delegate assembly.
can make a.
And if they hadn't, I think someone would have spoke up there, unless there's other people like you who are just there and the rest of the board doesn't know who's
Okay,
going,
all right.
and they
All right,
don't speak up. and
we
say-
can move on from that one. I think we've.
So we're under the proposed changes to Constitution and bylaws, which is Article 5 of the Delegate Assembly, Section 3D, and that's dealing with the composition. And so, under the first paragraph, each member board will assign its vote or votes to one or more of its board members for a term of 1 year, who will be certified as voting delegates to the delegate assembly. No voting delegate will have less than 1 vote, but member boards with more than 1 vote may assign or apportion its votes in multiples of 1 to as many of its members as it chooses. And so I want to add 2 sentences there at the end that say, there will be no requirement that the votes be restricted to 1 member. All voting delegates and alternate delegates will be afforded equal access to the delegate assembly, because last year.
But Ms. Garris, and I understand your point, but last year it was 2020 is not how we should change policy, because it was a completely unique year where only 1 delegate was allowed to attend. Every other year, you've been permitted to attend and encouraged. I mean, board members are always encouraged to attend the delegate assembly. So I don't think that that's necessary, because beginning in 2021, hopefully we'll all be there.
Hopefully, that's the key word. We don't know. And we don't know if there will be some other circumstance where the School Boards Association will say, look, you're only allowed 1 delegate this year. So that's why it needs to be part of the Constitution that says at no point in time will a board be allowed to only send 1 person.
All right, we can propose that.
Okay. So Article 5 of the Delegate Assembly. There's conflicting language here in Section 3 and Section 4. So Section 3E says each board member may designate for each voting delegate an alternate delegate who may serve in the absence of such voting delegate, but who will otherwise have no voice or vote. But down in Section 4, it says an alternate delegate for each voting delegate will be named and certified. So it's either will or it may.
That is for those school districts who have 7 school board members, but they have a small district and they get 1 vote. And so this is to ensure that the alternate doesn't just show up and try to vote on behalf of the district when they are not the designated delegate. That doesn't apply to our district. And so I don't think I don't want to step into the waters of trying to dictate something for smaller districts that doesn't apply to us. So I don't think that we should be
Well,
meddling
these are
with that.
changes that are going to the nominating committee at the School Board Association. These aren't changes that, when we vote on them, they become the new Constitution.
But they reflect the will and wisdom of this entity.
Right, so that's why you get the choice to vote it up or vote it down.
But if it doesn't make sense, this body shouldn't vote for it. I mean,
Well, I totally agree with that. Even though we vote for a lot of things that don't make sense, your vote counts. So if you don't like that this conflicts for one reason or another, you can vote it down.
Because, I mean, we're the 5th largest school district, and we have one of the largest delegate assignments. But there are many, many districts that only have 1 vote.
I understand that too.
And this is very important for those districts so that they can define who their delegate is, and so that in case there's a rogue member of their board that shows up and tries to vote inappropriately, this is the Constitution is designed to prevent that. And so that's why that language is in there. That it does not really apply to us.
I don't know how you're saying that a Constitution doesn't apply to us, because there are several boards with several delegates. This Constitution applies to everyone.
Yes, but this language does not apply to us, because we will not have a situation where an alternate is substituting in for the delegate.
I don't know.
Well,
you don't ever know. That's just it. That's why you need to have good policies in place before something happens, instead of after it happens, then you're trying to deal with the aftermath. So Article 5, Delegate Assembly, Section 4, Certification of Delegates. The Executive Director will notify each active member board. I'd like to change that to say each active board member.
And I can tell you that this one, and I'm not trying to argue, but this will not fly, because we individually, the 7 of us, we are not School Board Association members. Lexington District 1 is a School Board Association member. And so they will never direct their communications to each of us individually and ask us to respond individually. We are a member board, not board members in their eyes.
Right, so that's why there's a sentence in here that says the official voting delegate certification form must be signed by each active board member, and the member board must vote to approve their delegates. And my rationale here would be that several times they send us emails from the School Boards Association. They give us phone calls when there's something important. So they have a way to get this information out to every member. So I think we need to be active in the certification of our delegates process.
And all right, we can propose this.
Okay. And then proposed changes to legislative resolutions. Number 27 is school bus safety. The rationale they didn't include in there, and there was a lot of conversation that day about whether they were going to vote to continue this as a resolution.
Actually, Ms. Garris, that was not the conversation. I rewatched this on Sunday, and the conversation was the board member from Florence proposed an amendment to this resolution where it says a citation against the registered owner of a vehicle, and she wanted to add the driver. However, state law, the conversation was, after her amendment, is that the driver is already cited by state law, and that the reason this is the legislative resolution for the School Board Association is because oftentimes it's very difficult for, somebody will, if they don't have the driver, the school bus takes a picture of the license plate, and the registered owner shows up and says, well, it wasn't me, and they have no way to hold anybody accountable. And so this resolution is an intent by the School Board Association to make the registered owner be careful about who they loan their vehicle to, and possibly inform the magistrate's court of who actually caused the infraction. And I can tell you, I just looked, and the current legislative resolutions on the School Board Association website, this resolution didn't go anywhere. The amendment was defeated, and the resolution is intact exactly like it is.
Correct. And I'm very, very familiar with this. I've been to the State House and testified about this law, so I know all about it. There were questions about what fines were going to be collected, the registered owner. So in case there's ever a chance that I'm not there again at the delegate assembly, I wanted this rationale sent to the School Boards Association so that when people started asking those questions, that they would have those, such as all fines collected will be received and administered by the Department of Education for the purchase of digital recording devices mounted on school buses. The registered owner of the vehicle shall not be responsible for the citation if he provides an affidavit that the vehicle was not under his care, custody, or control at the time of the violation, and the affidavit must include the name and address of the person or company that had care, custody, and control of the vehicle. And I also sent a link to where it shows similar programs are successful in curbing the amount of violations based on the passage of this law in other states.
And I appreciate this detail, and I know Debbie Elmore, the legislative advocate for the School Board Association, is aware of all this. And usually, I think in the resolutions, it cites the state laws that are applicable to that resolution already. And so I don't know if you extracted this language from the current state law.
Yes, well, when people were asking these questions during the delegate assembly, they were not given answers, and it wasn't clear on what was going on here. So that's why I wanted to be sure that the School Boards Association had this information.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. All right, Board, do you have any questions for Ms. Garris concerning her proposals?
So we're taking this as a slate of recommendations to be made?
That's how it was offered, yes.
Okay. And walk us through the process of when this actually happens. Sorry. You got me, Mary Beth? Did you get it? Yep, okay. Walk me through this process of when this does go before a deliberative process, what does that look like?
So if we, as a board, approve these recommendations, then it will be forwarded to the legislative committee, which is a couple of the officers on the School Board Associations and the directors, and Debbie Elmore and I believe Scott Price. And the legislative committee will evaluate the recommendations and decide whether or not to forward them to the full assembly, and then they will be incorporated into the recommendations at the full assembly in December at the conference.
And so ultimately, this is just setting prioritization at the end of the day. I mean, the South Carolina School Board Association carries no weight with it other than making recommendations to legislators, so on and so forth, and a representative body, if you will, of the school districts of South Carolina. Is that a fair way to put that?
They are, in addition to being our member association, sure, they are provide advocacy and lobbying. We have, they have a lobbyist,
right?
And there's a list of 30, 40 resolutions, and they're basically position statements, so that because we're not all there with the school board association person who's there all day at the General Assembly. And when bills come up or amendments to bills come up that apply to public schools, whether it's school buses or teacher salaries or retirement or it's amazing the number of things that touch public schools that go through the General Assembly. She uses the resolutions or these principles as her guiding documents for how to advocate on behalf of the school boards around the state. And so these are position statements.
Right.
And so they're constructed as a resolution or position statement, and then there's just the rationale. And I appreciate Ms. Garris's work on this. I'm not sure that the language of the rationale is actually part of what we vote on. I don't really know. I don't know if the delegate assembly approves that or not. But these are, they're to guide the advocacy efforts of the people that lobby on our behalf.
And these also go to the School Board Association Legislative Committee. So from there, they decide if they want to put those in the Delegate Assembly Handbook. So we can send them anything we want, but essentially they
That's
have
right.
the
That's what.
final
Yeah,
say.
that's what I said in response to Dr. Guyton's. The legislative committee will meet over the summer and decide which which recommendations to forward to the full assembly, and then they're discussed at the full assembly, and that can be voted up or down.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. So we have the motion on the table. Ms. Garris, would you mind just repeating your motion?
Yes. I move that the board submit the proposed revisions to the South Carolina School Board Association Constitution and bylaws.
Thank you very much. And we had a second from Dr. Guyton. All right. Board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Anyone opposed to the motion? Aye. So I'm sorry, I didn't. What?
So if we vote in favor, the way they're presented will be sent to the South Carolina School Board Association.
Yes, on behalf of the Lexington One Board, yes. Okay, I'm going to ask it, we'll start with the ayes again. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, anyone opposed? I'm opposed. What do we do when we have a tie? I'm not a Robert's Rules expert, but thank you.
Ordinarily, you would be the tiebreaker, but since there are only 6 of you here today, you're stalemated right now.
Okay,
What's our timeline for submittal?
they had to be submitted by June 14th. On the, just to err on the side of, I will vote yes. I will change my vote to yes. So the motion is approved. All right, moving on. All right, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Powers.
All right, so action item 9.2 is nomination of Board Chair Anne Marie Green for the position of Region 9 Regional Director on the Board of Directors for the South Carolina School Board Association. So the South Carolina School Board Association is accepting applications for various officer positions for 2021, 2022. I'd like to nominate Chair Anne Marie Green as a candidate for the Region 9 Director position. The nomination requires board approval. This is an opportunity for our district to have input and voice at the state level. So therefore, as the motion, I make a move that the board nominate Board Member Anne Marie Green as a candidate for the South Carolina School Board Association Region 9 Director position. So that's a motion, so we will need a second to consider that.
Second.
All right, Dr. Guyton seconded it, so discussion.
And I have a copy of the nomination packet for everyone, if you're curious.
Would you like to speak to your interest in?
Sure. So the Region 9 director position is up for renewal this year, and traditionally that director position, Region 9 are the Lexington County School Districts, and it typically rotates through the 5 Lexington school districts, and it's currently being held by a board member in Lexington 4. Prior to that, it was Lexington 3. It's kind of Lexington 1's turn to do that. I've been very involved with the School Board Association since I was elected in 2016, and I feel like I think it's good for our district to have a seat at the table on the board of directors, because a lot of the decisions are made there. A lot of the budgeting for the School Board Association, the hiring of staff, those things, as well as just kind of digging deeper into the issues that the School Board Association works on, and the regional director also kind of serves as a point of contact for the other school districts in the region. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, I think you've represented as well as board chair, and I'm glad it's Lexington 1's turn, and I think you'll represent as well. Any other discussion, board? Has everyone had time to review the packet, or need a little more time?
You can sit and read my resume tonight over your dinner when you get home. No, just.
I saw the Awana commander.
Yeah.
My wife and I were in charge of Awana, and that was quite an amazing little thing to watch with those kiddos. It was incredible.
I love Awana.
Yes, Dr. Guyton seconded it. We're discussing it. All right. Need more time, Jada? Okay, so hearing no more discussion, we'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we have four people aye, I'm voting aye, and 1 opposed. Ms. Garris opposed. All right, the motion passes. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to 10.0, which is the superintendent's report. Dr. Little.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I apologize for my voice. I do want to say before we get started tonight, congratulations to the Gilbert High School baseball team for winning the first round of their state championship game. I do. Hold on just a second.
Last I heard, 10-1.
It was 14-4. 14-4.
Now they play again Thursday night, correct?
There, right?
Yeah, they play.
It'll
away.
be on the road. So congratulations to them, and we're going to hope that my voice is better by the first graduation ceremony, or the speech will certainly be much faster than normal. But thank you everybody for being here and for indulging me in that celebration. We're going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Salters, because we have a pretty significant transportation discussion to have. And sorry.
And I can talk and you can't.
Absolutely, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Little. And so tonight I want to have some conversation with you about the bus transportation relocation facility. This was a bond referendum project, and I've got a brief presentation that I'd like to walk through with you, and have some folks from transportation here as well that are going to help me out with part of this as we go through. So just to remind everyone what we're dealing with, this is the current Lexington Transportation Facility. This is Bar Road. Highway 1 is out here. Zooming in on the site, we operate the Lexington and River Bluff Transportation operation out of this area, generally right here. This area is the state-owned maintenance facility for the Lexington area, and I guess you could say this is maybe where old buses go to die. Sometimes there's some old buses over here for parts and things like that. And so just for your reference, as I show you these pictures, our main portable locations that we use as offices and training are located up in this area. And when you see a bunch of the water in some of the later pictures, that generally happens back in here and maybe up along this side here where staff parks. It's a very limited site that we have leased over the years from the State Department. These are some kind of close-up shots of the current transportation main operation. They're using a portable. It's been out there prior to me coming in the district, and I think the portable is probably circa 1975-ish or something like that. This is the training portable that is currently used. You know, and you have a space. This is actually the only handicap accessible location that we have on the site. This is an area for drivers to fill out paperwork, and there's that's a handicap training station there for a wheelchair security. Just some highlights of the flooring there that's coming up. And then some other shots of the restroom facilities and the exhaust, system that's there. And this is a small office break space there. This is there's a lot going on in these pictures. I realize that, but this is the special needs office spaces. It's very, very tight. Number of folks working in this area. That's why you see all this plexiglass that has been put up over the last year. And again, all this is in portable classroom space. And here's some of the water I was alluding to. You see towards the back of the site. I think it's maybe 6 or 8 buses deep that you have to move whenever it hints of a rain so that the buses don't flood. And we have our folks driving through this kind of water to get to a regular parking place that they can use, and then walking through significant amounts of water to get in and out of the facility. So it's a really difficult situation there. So you can see the need for a new facility. These are obviously not up to our standards. And then just to remind you, the property that we purchased, centrally located in the River Bluff, Lexington, and White Knoll areas. You see the mileage distance there from those 3 high school points. So the idea is to serve all 3 school locations from this facility. Somehow there was some conversation early on that got started online. I'm not sure how it started, but there was some conversation about possibly the Gilbert community being served out of this facility, and that's not in the plans. Actually, I'll show you a picture of Gilbert bus shop a little bit later on. So just to be clear, it's these 3 lots that'll be relocated. The White Knoll High School lot where the buses currently park is part of, we talked a lot about SCDOT today, but it's part of a relocation there where we need that space to extend the stacking loop in front of White Knoll High School. Back in year 2000 when White Knoll opened, there was no requirements for any kind of stacking loops in front of high schools, and they just had basically a small drop-off that exists now. And so now you need that long stacking loop to get cars off of the road. And so where the buses park at White Knoll is going to be used for that stacking as part of the renovations that are going on that campus. So those buses are going to be relocated ultimately to this facility. And again, just to remind you quickly where this property is located. Of course, we have, this is South Lake Drive going out towards the Edmond and Pelion area. And then if you followed this on in, you would come up by the courthouse. This is Two Notch Road. This probably sits right at, the back side of the property is on I-20, and the front side has multiple access points to Two Notch Road. Just a little closer shot of the property. Again, we have this main access here, a secondary drive here, and then there's a third drive location here. There's a small wetland in the middle here This is kind of the high ground of the property. It all slopes this way. And so we'll make use of that, that wetland for stormwater mitigation as we develop the site. And our intent would be to develop the upper portion of the site at this point. And here's a rendering, early rendering of what the site might lay out like. You know, we have our main entrance, our major parking area for our employees, and then the combination of the two lots there with the buses. And so you get a really nice flow in and out of the building, and then you have your exit drive here for the buses to go run their routes. And so,
Will buses come in that same drive?
no, it'll be entrance here, and then they'll come out here. This is an early rendering of the facility. We've had several iterations, but essentially it'll have a similar footprint. Probably will end up being more of a metal building look along the sides here, and then maybe have a brick facade on the front. But that's you know, scope and scale. That gives you an idea of kind of how big the building will be. And we've done some work. Mr. Kurtz and his team have done a lot of work with our architectural firm and our construction management at risk firm to develop a schematic, and I showed you guys this early on when we were talking about the property. So I'd like for Mr. Kurtz to spend a few minutes with you and just kind of talk to you about the scope of what is in the plans here. So Mr. Kurtz, you can just use that microphone right there. Apologize, he's moving a little slow. He may have hurt his back yesterday. Putting a lid on a paint can is the story he told me, so, of all things. I think I would come up with a better story, but.
All right, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Appreciate everything that the board is doing in SLT for the school district this year and everybody else in the school district. We did look at several different things when we're looking at coming into a new facility. Number one, if you notice toward the back of the facility, we have maintenance bays. Currently, we have absolutely no maintenance bays to maintain our district buses. The state maintains state buses, but our district buses, we currently have 54. We've done a big investment of those since I came on board in 2016. So with the maintenance bays, we can start doing some more of a heavier maintenance on buses instead of basically just changing out headlights and belts and things like that. Everything else that we have to do that becomes a major item, we work with State Fleet and using their vendors, getting purchase orders and having those repaired. Also toward the back, we have some wash bays, which are covered areas. And talking with architects, we decided to get that put in, and gives our drivers an opportunity to wash their buses in shade instead of outdoors and different areas in the parking lot that you saw earlier. A lot of drivers would be fairly excited about that. Of course, everything would be right there, and they wouldn't have be so spread out across the parking lot to try to wash their buses. Another area that we're very excited about is the training rooms. The training room, currently when we hold our week-long school bus driver training classes, we have to utilize other locations. And like I said, those classes are a week long, and a lot of times it's very difficult to find a site that we can do a Monday through Friday class. So this gives us an opportunity to be able to hold our classes at our particular site without having to go elsewhere. We've used the school district, we've used the libraries, so on and so forth to get our classes taken care of. Another thing that we have done, we've done evening classes. In the past, when we did evening classes, we were at the mercy of the site that held it. We also had to have a staff member from that school to stay over, which really wasn't fair to the staff member. And we've also done some weekend classes, and it'd be nice to have our own facility so someone didn't have to come in to their school to open it up for us to have a weekend class. As well as the training room could be used for local in-service meetings, which we have very limited space to do those, just for a regional, like the Lexington or White Knoll area, special needs. The CDL training could also be performed at one location instead of being at several different ones. Currently, we have to use White Knoll High School to do our commercial driver's license skills testing, and a lot of times that does interfere with some events that White Knoll holds. And that would be at this facility. Office space. The current facility is antiquated office space and small offices. Furthermore, I'm not trying to be selfish here, but my office has absolutely no privacy. I have no walls that go all the way up to the top. They stop about 1.5 feet short. So when I have to discuss something which is in a confidential nature, I have to go out to my vehicle and have that conversation. I've even had to do some Zoom meetings that were confidential by taking an iPad or a computer and going out there and doing that. In the other office, in the lecturing office, the walls are very thin. There's not too much privacy in discussing matters concerning a driver or things like that. And again, in my office, if I close the door, still doesn't matter. They can still hear me because of the wall. We also have added propane station, which is not in the schematic, but propane and diesel fueling. Propane, as you know, is a new thing to us. We're getting more propane buses, which the state has provided us a fueling station, which would be put there, and also be able to have our own diesel fueling station and not have to utilize the shop, which is extremely tight and cramped to be able to fuel a bus. Another thing that I'm excited about, and I know our drivers would be too, Jeff, you don't mind going back to the previous slide? One more, there you go. On the gates that go, or the drives that go in and out, would be motorized gates that would open and close. During the peak times, such as drivers coming in or leaving first thing in the morning, or from 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the gates just be held open. But the lot would be more secured, because then we could close the gates, but the drivers could use their ID to pull up and open them. They don't have to get out, undo a lock or anything like that. Just pull up, wave it, and the gate will open. After hours, same thing when they come back in from field trips, whether it be 7 o'clock in the evening, or we've had them come back in at 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning. All they need to do is just go ahead and activate the gate, and it'd open up, and as they drove through, the gate would close on its own. So, and then also another thing, which a lot of our staff has talked about, drivers, is the employee parking. The employee parking, especially at the Lexington site, is very, very tight. Some of it does flood, so the employees have to move where they're parked. In this facility, the employee parking will be out front, which the employees would then walk in through the building and walk out the side door going back to their bus. Currently, they park out in the bottom part of the parking lot. They walk about 150 yards up to the building. They get signed in, et cetera, get their key. This, of course, before COVID. And then go back out to the bus. When they return from their AM route, they do the same thing. So at a minimum 4 times a day, they're getting a pretty good walk just to turn a key and get a key and to sign in and sign out. This would greatly improve that process by them having employee parking in the front, the buses in the back, plus we don't have buses and cars trying to commingle in a parking lot when they're all trying to, one car might be trying to leave and a bus might be trying to leave, because sometimes those won't turn out to be good circumstances. Again, very, very excited about the new facility. And we have a lot of people just excited and wondering when we're going to start.
Thank you, Bill. And he's done a great job of kind of summarizing the scope changes that we're looking at here. I did a couple of additional shots of some early renderings of some of these spaces that Bill highlighted there. And this is a flexible space. We have this type of space in our operations building where you can put cubicles up, and it works really well to grow your office space. And so just, kind of recapping, in the referendum, we had a budget, initial budget of about $3 million for a central Lexington area facility. And the building scope was based on a small office space similar to Gilbert or Pillion. And then, of course, a parking lot to house the buses of the Lexington, River Bluff, and White Knoll areas. I just want to take a minute to show you kind of what the scope of that might look like. And this is the Gilbert area facility, and the Pillion one looks very similar. The building is less than 1,000 square feet. It has a little entrance area here, and then there's kind of a workspace. There's a little kitchenette area, which is kind of highlighted here. And then additionally, there are 2 offices located in that same space. So it's a very small space, crowded space. And so, that's the kind of scope and scale of what the facility study actually included. So it was really kind of a what I would call a scope disconnect there. I mean, it was our expectations were one thing, and the contractor had a very different understanding of what we were looking for. And so really, so what that does is it brings us to two options. And, we're talking about these tonight. We'd like for you to kind of think about them, process them over the next few weeks. Certainly reach out and ask any additional informational questions you think of after we leave. But option one would be to basically build a structure similar to the Gilbert Appealing offices as was included in the referendum, kind of as a phase one, and then you'd have to follow up in the future with additional phases to that project. And we need to continue to use office spaces at White Knoll and possibly the current Bar Road site because you just wouldn't have enough space available to do that. Option two would be to increase the budget for the facility, go ahead and build it all at once. We anticipate approximately about a $6.5 million additional funding need to cover the additional scope that Mr. Kurtz has done a good job of highlighting. And then, if you choose option two, we would recommend, again, we've talked about this bond premium earlier tonight. We'd recommend funding this out of that bond premium that we have available. Additionally, we've been approached about selling a portion of the land off, and so we would, just to give you a perspective, I'm gonna go back here real quick. What we would look at is if a person was interested, we would look at this lower portion of the site here and this ingress point here as a potential that we could sell off if the board was interested in that. Certainly that's a process that we would have to go through. But if that, came to fruition, that would offer you some additional revenue that, could be used to offset some of the gap there in the scope. So basically those are the two options we have to present to you tonight. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about those two options for your consideration.
I just have a question for the board. Has any board member been out to tour any transportation facilities at Lexington, Gilbert, Pillion after they've been completed? No? No. Okay. So, Mr. Kurtz, thank you for that presentation. I don't think there's any denying that a new transportation facility is needed. However, I just gotta say I'm mad. I am so mad. I'm mad that for 15 to 20 years, this transportation facility has been in disrepair, and only when there's a $6.5 million mistake is anybody allowed to talk about it. Otherwise, all the bus drivers are told, don't talk about it, we don't have any money, we can't do anything. So they've been rolling up their pants legs for years when the parking lot's flooded just to get on their bus. They've been working out of moldy portables for years because they couldn't get any attention. And we got a transportation facility that was supposed to be open in 3 months, and we're just now discovering that there was some miscommunication 3 years ago that changes everything. Option one, I don't really see as an option. You can't build a transportation facility in phases any more than you can build a school in phases. And you can't steal from one project in the referendum to put money towards another project. I know we've been told the early childhood centers have been put on hold while we figure out what to do about this. So it's the board's job to figure out where the money is coming from here. The ballot said that we had to renovate and demo Gilbert Elementary School and Pillion Middle School. So you gotta do that, period. That's what the ballot said on the bond referendum. Now, if this board had been doing their job all along, and if they had approved projects from leftover funds, as was stated on that ballot, then the people that voted on that, instead of allowing the district to spend that money as they see fit, which by the way wasn't even reported to us, we don't know where the leftover funds out of any project have gone, we would have additional funds at our disposal. But here we are, and here are our options. And so if we're looking at how we're going to come up with the money, I have several ideas. But one of those is not selling a portion of the land, because we're only going to grow in buses. So we're going to need that land eventually. And also, Mr. Kurtz, I talked to Mr. Salters last week, just looking at that site rendering. I don't think that office is big enough. I mean, like y'all, they showed pictures of Gilbert, and I mean, it's crowded in Gilbert. And I'd hate to see the same thing happen at that place when it's completed. And I see the training facility there, but there are bus drivers in the office all day long, every day. They're either coming from a shuttle, going to a shuttle, you know, starting the kindergarten route. There's a kitchen. I mean, they eat in there. They basically live in there. And there's somebody going all the time. So just based on that drawing, I mean, I don't even think that place is big enough for what's needed. But that's, you know, I guess a conversation for the board to have. But that's just my 2 cents worth.
If I could just clarify one point, any savings that has been achieved on any project in the bond referendum to date, the 2018 referendum, is sitting at that facility and has not been repurposed for additional needs at other locations. So I just want to make sure we understand that.
Well, not necessarily at other locations, but just say the Lexington High School bond referendum. We didn't have the repair to the breezeway that was included in those referendum funds, but after there was money left over, was that project not completed?
We did replace the breezeway connection to LTC.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you go back to the slide of the layout of the building? Yep, thank you. Can you give us an idea on day-to-day, and this one's for you, Bill, can you give us an idea of like day-to-day usage? What does this look like? I mean, take for example that classroom. Is this we're gonna use it 10 times a year? We're gonna use it 20 times a year? Just an idea of what day-to-day operations looks like out of this building.
Well, the classroom itself, we hopefully will be using at least twice a month for school bus driver training classes. But also the supervisors can bring in their drivers to do individualized type training. The drivers also, when it's not in use for training, could be using that as a workstation area. If they need to get updated on their paperwork, their routing reports and things like that, they'd be more than welcome to be able to utilize that area.
Gotcha. So it would be used frequently.
Right.
Is a good way to put it.
We're not gonna lock the doors and only open it twice a week or twice a month, and yeah,
Gotcha.
it'll be open to be accessible every day.
And as far as the maintenance that we're doing now on the buses, it's just, they're very much one-offs, very simple kind of things. It's not terribly complex. This would obviously expand our scope of ability to maintain the buses. Is that a fair statement?
Correct. We can do much more detailed inspections on our own instead of having them farmed out, to have a garage to do them. Also, we can do some more detailed maintenance on the buses that we're unable to do at our current location. Some of your heavier items, like an engine replacement, if that ever happened, would probably go somewhere else.
Sure.
But, you know, we would be able to improve our maintenance program on our buses. We currently do have a rather new fleet. Of course, when you have a new fleet, you don't normally have a lot of problems. But what we find in our newer buses that we have, and also that the state has, for some reason, newer type vehicles have more electronic issues than they do mechanical issues.
Does propane change that? Does propane, with the advent of the propane buses, does that change our frequency of inspections and things that have to occur? I'm unfamiliar with the fuel system, so I
Well, the propane, all the propane buses are state buses.
Right.
We would not be maintaining them, but we do have to fuel them and have a fueling station for them. And right now, the propanes are only located at Gilbert and at Lexington and at White Knoll. Currently, the White Knoll drivers, when they utilize the propane buses, they normally put them on a shuttle to go to LTC. And they come by on either when they're empty, going or coming from, to come by the bus shop to fuel their buses. Whereas Lexington, the tank is right there. With the new facility, obviously everybody's right there, so there's no extra deadhead or travel time to go fuel.
Gotcha.
If I could add to something Mr. Kirk said with respect to the maintenance, we are fortunate that over the past few years, our district-owned buses have become newer and newer. And so one would say, well, then your maintenance costs should go down, and that I would agree with that when you're talking about big ticket items, engine replacements and things. But if we have more regularly scheduled maintenance like you would on your own automobile, then we can hopefully keep them longer and avoid those costly big ticket repairs down the line. And this lends itself to that much better than what we have now.
An ounce of prevention.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ms. Garris, I can certainly appreciate the passion. I think at the end of the day, we just find ourselves with a $6.5 million question, and for me, I appreciate this being brought as a deliberative process that allows us to see some options, to kind of hear from boots on the ground. This is what you get for $3 million. This is what you get for $9.5 million. Here's the considerations. And so I appreciate that. I think that is that's a good step forward for us, and it gives us a lot of clarity on kind of what we're spending the money on. Okay, I guess our job at the end of the day is figure out where the money's coming from. So, Mr. Salters, I would probably offer up, if we could look at a waterfall type method for how we would approach funding of an item like this. So we start building this thing. When would we start building it, roughly, if we had to guess?
When would we start?
Yeah, rough estimate.
Probably, I would have to say at this point, probably August.
Okay. So when will we start writing the first check?
Probably right around that time.
Okay. And so by that, when we look at a waterfall type funding method, your first pot of money is going to come obviously from bond referendum, and the money's allocated to that. Next one would be any excess that we have from other projects and the freedom that we have to do that. Secondly would, if we have operations budget excess that allows us to shift those funds over. Thirdly, now that we have ESSER funding, that's got to play into the equation a little bit, but I don't think we have all of those answers yet of what we can and cannot do quite yet. But I guess my concern there is with ESSER funding, that's a real temptation for us to run ourselves into a financial cliff 3, 4, 5 years from now, for which I would hate to see the district or future boards set up for that. And so if we had some flexibility to use the ESSER funding in a way that would very much be one-offs. So you bring up about the pre-K upfits and those kind of things. That's not something we envision as being a recurring cost, even compared to technology, which I'm a huge fan of technology, but we're going to have to refresh those devices in 3 to 5 years. We just know that. So even looking at the ESSER funding for that, and then lastly, bond premium, because I'll admit, when I see a capital fund of about $7 million, it doesn't take long for us with 31 schools to quickly go through $7 million. And so the more we can kind of have in that reserve, I think the better off we are. So my question would be, and obviously not an answer tonight, but what would a waterfall method look like if based off of timing? Because we still got to write checks.
Sure.
And we know that we're not going to know bond referendum excess for this many years. We're not going to know operations budget until this time of year. So what flexibility do we have with a waterfall type method based off the timing that this project would have to be completed?
Sure. We can definitely put that together for you.
That would be helpful. I agree. I think this would be a huge step forward. I would not be in favor of selling property, to be quite frank. I think based off of growth, this is something that would be needed. But at the same time, correct me if I'm wrong, this would also serve the other schools as well, not just the ones who park buses there. Is that correct? So from a training perspective, from maintenance, whatever it may be, this would serve the entire district, not just the 3 schools we identified.
Correct. The training would serve, all areas. And just to let you know too, when we put on a school bus driver training class, we've had them come as far away as Horry County to the class. Lexington 5, a lot of times, the only 2 districts to have a driver trainer classroom trained with the State Department of Education is Lexington 1 and Lexington 5. None of the other Lexingtons do. So a lot of times, we'll teach a class, they'll teach a class, we'll teach a class, they'll teach a class. And the other districts in the area, including Aiken, Horry, we've had Garlington, Spartanburg, they've sent people to the class because they didn't have any available in their area. And we're not going to turn anybody away even though they don't work for us.
So it's offering additional support for
Right.
surrounding districts who maybe don't have the luxury of this, is that correct?
Now, we don't do the training on the people
Sure,
from
sure,
there.
sure.
We just do the classroom part. So, and then we concentrate just on our people. But, that does serve the entire district, not just those 2 zones. The maintenance of the district buses, all those buses can go to any school in the district. P and Gilbert, White Knoll, Pleasant Hill, Midway, it doesn't matter, that they're for the district to be able to use.
Well, and I think that's an important point because sometimes it can be as challenging to make decisions in a time of abundance as it is in a time of scarcity. And fortunately, because of the work that has been done throughout the history of Lexington 1, we find ourselves in a place of abundance. And so it's still a $6.5 million question to answer, but we're even fortunate to be able to ask the question, quite frankly. So, well, thank you.
Remind me how many school bus driver openings we have currently? Ballpark. 5, 50?
Last count was 32.
Would this facility help you hire, retain, train bus drivers? And
Yes, sir. We've had people come to our current facility and leave.
Yeah, so again, I would be in favor of doing it right and being done with it to help.
And to that point, Dr. Power's going to say it's anecdotal and it's hard to say with certainty, but I would have to believe that folks would come to Lexington 1 or come to Lexington 1 now, go to the Bar Road facility and go, really? This is, it's really third world country type of facility. So I don't have any hard and fast data on that, but I would have to suspect that people would probably choose to go elsewhere, given a choice, because, having a safe and secure and attractive facility attracts people. And I think that's one of the strong points of, as my wife and I were driving through, coming back from the upstate a couple of weeks ago, we rode by Beechwood, and she made the comment about how wonderful all of our facilities are. And I think there's one glaring exception to that, and hopefully we're moving to get that rectified.
Well, and I wanted to, a suggestion and a question. So just in the spirit of how we tend to, our naming of things has evolved, instead of calling that a classroom, call it a collaborative space, because all the things you described are more what we're seeing in our schools, where it could be a large group setting, or it can be individuals working independently, or it can be team. That's just a silly suggestion, but really what you described is more of a collaborative space than a classroom. And this is also just like off the top of my head. Every time I see this rendering and hear the description of it, I can't help but think about the, is it Richland 2 or Richland 1 that's offering the CDL class now? Certification for students. And if maybe in the future, this facility seems prime opportunity for us to expand our LTC courses into something like that, I know whichever Richland School District is doing it, the demand has been very high. And this just seems like a great opportunity down the road to maybe look into that. I would say Dr. Talley, but I'll say Mary Gaskin. So just an idea, because I really do think that there's some untapped opportunity here that we can use to benefit our students in a different way. So, anyone else with any questions for Mr. Salters or Mr. Kurtz?
I just wanted to clarify, Kyle, I think you were asking, maybe you were assuming that training facility right there is for all of the drivers. But what that is they train new drivers who come in to take the CDL. So
Sure, sure.
there's only a couple times a year that all the drivers come together,
Right,
and that's
right.
an in-service. And they would still have to go out to a different location.
Right.
That's big enough to hold all of them. They still wouldn't be able to meet there during in-service that one time a year.
Yeah, I guess the point of clarification was that while we're only housing 3 schools worth of buses, this space is actually being used district-wide to serve new bus drivers from a training perspective, those kind of things. The only other thing I would offer up is maybe you made one comment that honestly didn't kind of sit right when you talked about being selfish about your office space, and I would say no, I don't think you're being selfish, to have walls that go to the ceiling and, not have to go out to your car and do those kind of things. Because you do find yourself in situations where you probably do have to have difficult conversations and things like that. So I would just offer up that's not a self-serving purpose. I think it serves both the district as well as your needs. And so we appreciate it. We hate that you've done that, but obviously we've been confined to the space that we've had and so on and so forth, but we appreciate it.
And that's, if you have any say-so in the final design, that's something, looking at those renderings, where there's cubicle spaces, I don't think it's been taken into account that there are different radio frequencies for different bus lots, and having more than one attendance area in that bus lot, like, you're gonna be able to hear one radio over here and a different one over here if they're all combined. So that may be something else y'all want to take into consideration, is having more privacy among those offices so that there's not so much chaos in there.
Transportation's not chaotic.
That's funny.
Before we close, if you don't mind, I would like to recognize George Blackwell is here tonight with us. He is the coordinator of transportation, and he really does all the work. Bill's just a mouthpiece. But I want to thank both of these guys and their team for what they do.
Thank you.
I will say Mr. Blackwell was my supervisor when I was hired, and it was a pleasure working for him.
And y'all have only had to redesign bus schedules and routes this year like 17 times. So, it's been an easy year, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Little, do you have anything else in your report?
No, ma'am, I don't.
If you did, would you be able to say it?
No, ma'am, I won't.
All right, we are at 11.0. I just wanted to make a couple real quick comments. We've had a lot of this, it's the end of the year and things are starting to get back to normal, and so we've had some fun things to participate in. I know Mr. Oswald and Ms. Garris attended the FFA banquet in Pelion last week, and that's always a highlight. Ms. Henson and I attended the special ed graduation, which is, I always say, one of my very favorite events every year, and it's just so special to be a part of that. I know a number of us have served as panelists for passages and capstone presentations and other student spotlight activities like that. And so that's been a great way to wrap up the year, to actually start interacting with the students again, because that's really why all of us are in this room right now, as the students. I would like to remind everyone that our high school graduation ceremonies begin next week on June 8th. And the board would like to congratulate the graduating class of 2021. We could not be more proud of these seniors who have navigated a challenging school year. Congratulations to all of the graduates, and we look forward to celebrating with you next week at 8 a.m. at each of your respective football stadiums. And I just want to take a moment to say, we've made it to June. It's June. I feel like that it's been a long time coming, but that is definitely something to celebrate. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Dr. Guyton. Is there a second? All in favor? Go home. Thank you very much.